Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for all the technical delay. So, I'll be covering 12 habits of high performance athletes today. So, first, foremost, and very important habit which every athlete should have is the communication. They should aim for effective and proactive communication. What I mean by effective and proactive communication is you should be able to incorporate a habit in your kids to optimize their communication, because no matter how hard you work or how important your goals are, small gaps in communication will set back in achieving those goals in an effective manner. So when it comes to communication, we should try and emphasize on being more specific by quantifying the communication. For example, rather than saying you have like small amount of soreness, you can quantify it by maybe saying 5 on 10 soreness. Athletes should be able to communicate not just with coaches but also with support staff equally, because when it comes to injuries, support staff will play an important role compared to coaches, and that's the first step incorporated. Now the second thing is performance planning. Performance So basically, when you set out on a journey, you have a pre-planned destination in mind, and you just don't land up wherever the road takes you, right? So likewise, when it comes to performance, you have to have a certain kind of plan in mind before you train yourself. So athletes should be self-aware of their plans. They should have certain goals, like example, having a target time and competition. Now the goal should be such that goals should be process driven rather than outcome driven. For example, rather than setting a goal to get a gold medal in a meet, you can rather have a PB goal, or maybe like more better would be to shave off 2 seconds in your PB in 100 meters in probably like 6 months. So you should have a proper roadmap of when and what to achieve with the help of the coach. Now the third most important habit is to plan your calendar. Now when it comes to swimming per se, there's no specific season. So but what you can do is maybe identify main competition and set season accordingly. So identifying the season in such a manner so that you achieve peak performance in you should be able to achieve peak performance in your main competitions. And so the basically periodization, I'll not get deeply into that, but periodization is done based on your main goals, main competition. So that will be done mainly by your coaches and your support staff when it comes to training. And even for that matter, even a nutritionist will periodize your nutrition plan. So what you have to understand as an athlete is to understand what the goal of that particular block is. For example, when it comes to training for sprinters, so maybe like the earlier in the season, the goal is to build aerobic base. So once you have that kind of goal set in your mind, you will work towards it. The fourth important habit is to undergo screening. Screening means complete medical checkup and blood work, your body composition, so that you come to know whether your body composition is in ideal range or if there's a room to improvement. There's periodic MSK and fitness screening, which helps to find the underlying weak areas. I'm sure Yash has covered that in the previous session. Now based on the weak areas, it helps us to monitor, helps us to tailor your Dryland strategies. And it also regular screening also helps us to monitor your progress. The fourth important strategy is to have a sports science knowledge and practices. So I'm sure by attending all these webinars, you have already incorporated and started practicing this habit by you're trying to gain more knowledge in sports science and understanding of it. So winning, like it was believed earlier, it does not just require talent and working hard. It also requires training smart with sports science knowledge and practices. So what it involves is not just it involves your training strategy in a scientific manner, which there are certain processes towards it, like collecting data, measuring performance, data analysis. Now, unless and until you know how important it is to collect data or to measure performance, or what is the role of data analysis, you won't work towards it. So it is very important to have a knowledge of sports science and practices before you start incorporating those habits into your routine. Fourth one is use of athlete monitoring system. So basically, athletes should have a habit. They should be inculcated into habit of logging their wellness questionnaires on certain AMS system. Like currently, we are using Team Builder, but eventually we'll be shifting our platform to HMP. So why is that important? Because it helps to understand us, like your recovery scores, your moods, your soreness, and etc. Also, it's a one platform to log your training data, because when it comes to probably in future analyzing your performance and like what made you achieve certain goals or what was not working out, so training data is important to be logged in, so that so we can backdate and analyze what is working best for you. Also, it's a one platform for athletes, coaches, and support staff, and hence it minimizes the chance of miscommunication. So basically, I'm sure like most of you have started, you use it already. So in AMS, there's wellness questionnaires, there's record, there's health tracking, there's performance analysis, and workout scheduling. Now there's use of certain variables and technology, which is another habit which can be incorporated while training. For example, resting heart rate monitoring is it's very, you can either do it manually or with the use of technology. So basically, what you have to do is measure the heart rate first thing in the morning. So declining heart rate is a sign of conditioning. Now, if there's sudden increase in heart rate if you don't have any underlying fever or anything, it's a sign of concern, and probably it's showing that you're not recovering enough or you're moving towards overtraining. Also, heart rate monitoring is important when you're training, because it provides feedback to not just coaches but also to an athlete to monitor their effort and progress. Now, the sixth important habit is to incorporate Dryland training. So Dryland has been shown to not just helping in improving your performance, but it also helps in injury prevention. So now there are three aspects of Dryland training. There's one, Dryland warm-up and activation exercises before swimming. There's Dryland strength and power training, which is incorporated 2 to 3 times in a week, and there's fourth one, which is Dryland aerobic training. Now, there are certain considerations when you should be incorporating aerobic training or not. Now, that all these things will be determined by your strength and conditioning coach. But the important point here to be considered is, if you're training with an outside trainer, you also have to you should make sure your trainer is well qualified to give a strength and conditioning session for you. He should be a well qualified SNC coach with a certification of either NSCA or ASCA. Now, workload and recovery management. What is important over here is you have to understand what is workload. So basically, you have to adhere to your training program regularly. Adherence and compliance with respect to regular training helps in gradual cumulative loading. So basically, it helps in gradual overloading helps you to become stronger. So the risk of injury, the most common perception is that it is commonly believed that overtraining is the most common cause of injury, but you also have to understand, but if you're under training, that equally can pose a risk of injury. So again, it's natural if you don't achieve certain goals in your main competition, you plan to add more competitions to achieve your goal. So you have to understand also that too many competitions back to back will increase the stress and does not allow adequate preparation time. So like you have to understand sometimes doing less is like doing more in a long run. Also, you need to incorporate post-season recovery blocks for you to recover from the stresses of the main meets. Now, some of the recovery strategies which you follow, which is already covered by us, but it's like cool, like in acute. In that particular training session, you can do cool down and stretching. You can do foam rolling. In To recover from a complete week, is you can go for weekly massages. And also sometimes it's important to understand the body demands, and sometimes, for whatever reasons, if you're not recovered well, for example, you may not have slept well, so you have to respect and understand body demands and give break as and when you need. Now, measuring performance. Now, this is done mostly by it's done by your coaches, but as a swimmer, you have to understand what we exactly do when it comes to measuring a performance. For example, most of the swimmers have undergone lactate test sets. Like the most common lactate test set is 8 into 200. So this is the if you see the graph on the right, it shows the lactate exam. It shows the progression from graph 1 compared to graph 2. If you see the peak lactate in graph 1, it is 9. Whereas in the same, the graph has shifted towards right, and the peak lactate has improved to 14. Also, peak timing has improved from 223 to 218. What another interesting thing which you'll observe here is at lactate 7, if you see the in the previous graph, the timing is 224, whereas in the next graph it is 222. So it shows a visual feedback and probably helps in motivating an athlete that they are moving in the right direction. Now, the next most important habit is to consider is sleep. It is very important to get good 9 to 10 hours of sleep in a day. Why it is important is because sleep helps in restoration of your glycogen stores, which you use while doing a workout, or while you are doing a training session. It also helps in cognitive functions, like you should be mentally be recovered, and it helps in concentration, better decision making, and better decision making ability, and better reaction time. Most of the recovery and regeneration of the body tissues, the repair happens when you sleep. And in fact, the growth hormone, the 95% of the growth hormones when the kids are in the growing age, the release happens at night when you are sleeping. And also, like when coaches are teaching you new techniques and new strategies, so to for in long term retention of those, it's important that you get adequate sleep. And in terms of immunity, it is very important, like certain corticolamines are released if you don't get enough sleep, and which has adverse effect on your immunity. So also from the immunity perspective, it is important to get a good amount of sleep. Now, why? Now, these are some of the examples of the studies which are done on the sleep. So if you don't average 9, so if you get like less than 8 hours of sleep per night, you're twice as likely to get injured. And also, like sleeping less than 7 hours slows your reaction time to 50%, which is equivalent to blood alcohol of 0.05%. And also, a study was done which in which swimmers, specific to swimmers, they're sleeping 10 hours in a day for 6 weeks, and what they observed is with sleeping for 10 hours per day for 6 weeks, they improved not just in their reaction times and turn times, the swim time also improved by 6 to 8%, which is a good improvement. So now, like swimmers, especially age group swimmers, are prone to sleep deprivation because of early training hours and schools and etc. So practically, they are prone to sleep deprivation. So what are certain strategies which can be done to improve your sleep? For example, you need to have a set bed routine, like avoid unwanted distractions, dark bedroom, cool background, cool temperature, same routine, bedtime routine, avoid blue screens and pick up a same bedtime, and avoid stimulants like caffeine and all. Also, there's something known as sleep banking, which is like you have to, like, if you don't get enough sleep, for example, in a normal working day, you can try and recover your sleep in your recovery days when you don't train. So like try and cover your sleep by maybe incorporating napping, or maybe sleeping for more time on your rest days. Now, nutritional and hydration strategies. This is covered in detail by Ananya, but I'll just touch base upon it. So, what is important to follow is customized nutritional strategies, catering to individual and tailor-made individual needs. There should be adequate hydration and wise use of supplements, especially in growing age. The another important habit to be considered is sports psychology. Now it's very like there again, like there's a good, you have a professional sports psychologist to help you in detail, but what I'll touch base upon is what a sports psychologist will do is help you in mental preparation and learn. Like for example, if you want to learn a new skill or learn a new technique, or when you're doing a certain stroke with a bad technique, to correct that technique, you there are certain skills which certain techniques which you can follow, like imagery. Then there are goal setting strategies. Like I mentioned earlier, the goal setting should be outcome driven, and it should be process driven and not outcome driven. And there should be small goals set to achieve your bigger goal. It Sports psychology is also psychologists will also help you to stay motivated, and also like how to deal with your stressful situation, which is normal for an athlete to undergo when they're actually competing. Now, engaging in multiple sports. Now, the most common mistake which is done is to specialize early. Now, studies has shown, specific to swimming, if you specialize in swimming like before 11 to 13 years, before you achieve your before you achieve your maturity, there's a risk of overtraining and overuse injury. Also, like from the development of an athlete, like the holistic development of an athlete is only possible if you engage in multiple sports. Also, to keep them enjoyment and reduce the risk of burnout, you like from the enjoyment perspective, it is very important for an athlete to, especially young athletes, to engage in multiple sports. But however, even if you reach at an elite level, you can once in a while, it is good to play or good to do engage into something which is different than your normal sport, to keep up the motivation level and to avoid boredom. Bonus which I wanted to cover is like watch out for red flags for overtraining and burnout. Now, the most common symptom which is shown is decreases in performance despite the consistent effort and regular training, and putting the hard work, you're not able to improve in your performance. That is a number one factor which is to be considered in overtraining and burnout. You will also see the increase in resting heart rate despite in full training, and also despite the regular despite the if you don't have any underlying fever or anything, there's still an increase in heart rate. There's mood swings and impaired sleep quality consistently throughout. Then you are probably reaching the burnout and overtraining stage. I'm open to questions now. Hello.
Hi, any questions for Chetna? Please put it in the chat box.
Yeah.
Which Is the reliable and tested for swimming heart rate monitoring variable. Now, if you're talking solely about heart rate monitoring, Garmin is the best heart rate monitoring tool which you can use. Yeah. There are a couple of like apart from Garmin, probably Polar or something which you can use. Now, good resting heart rate. Now there's no good resting heart rate as such, but like for on an average, if you're not an athlete, your resting heart rate is somewhere at 72. But one of the important important part of training is your resting heart rate reduces. So like your, for example, from 70, if you're training and it has reduced to 60, now it gives more room for you to like if there's something known as maximum heart rate and there's something known as resting heart rate. Maximum heart rate is your ability, like your maximum ability, your heart rate can go to a maximum level when you do an exercise. For normally for individuals, it is 220 minus age. So roughly if you're 20 years, so it would be around 200. Now, if your resting heart rate is going down, which is one of the important factors of training, like from 70 to 60, so you get more room when you do an exercise. So from 60 to 200 rather than 70. So yeah, that should answer your question, I think. Sleep hours, which I covered. You like if it is not possible to achieve 8 like good 10 hours of sleep at night, you can try and achieve overall in a day. So good 9 to 10 hours in a day is a good number of sleep hours which you should aim to achieve. So regarding multiple sports, it depends on it depends on what age category you are and whether you've already achieved an elite level or still in the development or age group category. If you are in the age group category and less than 10 years, I would encourage you to play more, like there can be multiple sessions of playing multiple sports, like maybe 1 or 2 sessions of playing the other sports. Also, like if you have achieved an elite level already, then probably once in a while, maybe once in 3 or 4 weeks or something. Swimmers have hectic schedule. What do you advise for relaxation for next day workout? Now, there's certain mental strategies which a sports psychologist will help you with. But apart from that, like having a good set bedtime routine, and cool temperature, and avoiding distractions and everything, not using cell phones and avoiding use of technology as during like as in when you're approaching your sleep hours. That is what is going to help you with relaxation. How many hours of deep sleep should an athlete get? Now, this is, although the devices claim to like divide your sleep routine into deep and superficial sleep, but like this is something, there's no device I think which is accurate to calculate your deep sleep. So likewise, in general, you should be able to sleep for like good 9 to 10 hours in a day, like which like a small napping will also help you compared to like not fulfilling those sleep hours. If I finished an important competition, how much rest should I have? Now, also like the recovery block will depend completely from competition to competition, and what is your next, like how much time do you have for your next competition block? Now, for example, if you already have lined up a next important major meet in next 3 to 6 months, then your recovery block will go down. But if you have a good 1 year preparation time for the next meet, so maybe your recovery block can be as good as 3-4 weeks is also fine. What about meditation, and is it important? Yes, like meditation and all the strategies are important when it comes to relaxation. You have to try and explore and like what mode is helping you and suiting individual athletes. It may differ from person to person. For example, when it comes to relaxation, for me, it like just talking it out to someone who I look upon to may help. but for someone else, meditating may help. So it depends completely, and you have to try and explore what is working out for you. Anything else?
Any other questions? Or we could conclude the session today. Thank you very much. Tomorrow, Coach Partha would be speaking about mind training. And as there have been a request from few parents regarding psychologists, we thought a session from Partha on mind training would be an ideal startup for talking about this aspect of sport. Thank you very much then. And we look to see you tomorrow at 12. Thank you, Chetna, for a wonderful presentation.
Mom, there are 2 more questions that had been asked. Can you answer those, please?
Yeah, sure.
The one was Sarita had asked, and the one more question I had asked. So if you could just look into the comment section and please answer the questions. Thank you.
Yeah.
Should I read it out to you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let me just go back. There are 1 second. Just give me a minute. Okay, my question was, I don't know what Sarita was asking, but my question was, if will pranayam help in terms of swimming, and if yes, what way? Regular practice of pranayams.
Basically, pranayam is one of the relaxation strategy which you follow. So like I explained earlier, you have to try and explore what is working out for you. It may be meditation.
Pranayam is more about breathing
yeah, correct.
technique.
Breathing technique and relaxation. So now, so basically when it comes to, if it helps in race routine and it helps you calm down before training or before competition, so you can go about it. But again, it depends on what is working out for what.
Does it help in lung capacity?
Lung, it's more of a relaxation strategy. It does not help in lung capacity.
Okay, thank you. And Sarita's question was, can we average daily 9 to 10 hours of sleep in 1 week? So during holidays, can they sleep longer and make up the time, cause with school and swim timings 9 to 10 hours is difficult?
Yeah, so like I explained, there's something known as sleep banking. If you're unable, like I'm talking about your weekly schedule. So there are like most of the swimmers have this pattern where Wednesday and Sundays are their recovery days. So like if you're unable to fulfill your sleep hours in the week, probably you can try and cover up in your recovery days. But like it's also important to maintain your fixed routine. However, like it's only once in a while you can extend your sleep hours on your recovery days. Otherwise, rest of the week it is important to maintain your schedule. This is only if you can't sleep for a good 9 to 10 hours, which is very practical and it is not feasible, especially with school and all. So like sleep banking can be one of the strategies, which is like covering up your sleep hours on your recovery days, which you can follow. Any more questions?